So I've hit you are live.
Uh,
So it's saying end broadcast top right. You are live. We're definitely live. Welcome everybody. I've got a friend from my Wild About Watches channel, Lexter, who posted a comment a few days ago and just asked if he could have a live stream with me, have someone for me to talk to, and asked me about the London Watch Show that we saw, or that I saw, and obviously the video that I have done on said video. So welcome, Lexter. Thank you
thank you for
for
having me. I'm glad you went live. Thank you.
that's my pleasure. I was just going to have a quick look at the studio and just see, well, not the studio, on my, so the video that I put up, which was 5 days ago, has had 4,300 views, 123 likes, and even more comments, 137 comments. So
How many subscribers now?
I can tell you that if I go into it, it has to be over 50. It's quite a few. Well, 45.
Well,
So we're
what's your
getting
total?
45.
What's your total count?
The total count is 726.
That's great.
726. And I think before the show, it was around about 745 or something like that. So somehow I've gained other other views or other subs from somewhere else. My good friend Richard has joined us up in the comments. Good afternoon, Richard. I hope you are
But he goes
feeling
by
well.
Jake.
Jake,
His name
yes,
Jake.
is
Good
Jake,
afternoon, Jake.
But I know that's Richard because I recognize the photo. So yeah, so we've got two people watching us at this moment in time, but no doubt more will watch in the future. So you wanted to ask me a few questions
Well, I
about
wanted
my
to pick your
thoughts.
brain a little bit. You were there on Sunday,
Correct.
so that's the last day of the show.
Yes.
And what you noticed there, you did say something in the video that you flippers were selling watches. So I didn't know what that meant exactly. People were presenting their own watches to these guys, or
Well, not that I saw, no, but I heard from a friend that I was with that people were going there and selling their watches to the grey marketeers who were there. Now, I didn't see it myself, and I certainly have no evidence of it. But like I said, I was talking to someone who I would trust implicitly, and they said that yes, people from the general public obviously had bought tickets and were going along, and I guess they were probably siding up to the the grey marketeers. Oh, hello, I've got such and such a watch. You fancy buying you fancy buying such and such a watch. So that's what I heard. Yeah, we don't do anything seriously on this show. So any new people who've come along, I'm about as serious as Mr. Bean or Rowan Atkinson or something like that. So don't expect anything sensible. Hello, Shane, if you're out there. So yes, yeah, that's what I heard, that people were doing such a thing. Yes.
and you said you were it was a little depressing to see all those great looking, like the Rolexes there, all the Batmans. He had like 8 of them, 6 to 8.
Yes, it was. Yeah, exactly. There was one display which you see in the video where there was there was about 7 Batman, and yeah, I think there was the Jubilee version, and there was at least I can't remember, it's from memory now, but I think there was at least 4 or 5 of those lined up together, the Jubilee version. And then obviously, there was a couple on the Oyster bracelet. So it's kind of difficult to know.
Did they
Obviously, they
show
must have been new.
pricing? Did they show
No,
pricing, or you just had to
no.
enter a conversation with
You
them?
had to enter a conversation and say, well, how much is such and such? So I didn't. To be honest, I was so. Some of the comments that I got was, people saying, well, what did you expect? What did you go for? What did you expect? And I must admit, I didn't really know what to expect. And I was a bit taken aback by what I actually saw. I knew that there would be some, some selling of this type of thing. And, I guess, I knew that there would be some, a few gray marketeers. I was obviously expecting some, but I wasn't expecting quite as many as I saw, because there must have been about at least 3 rows downstairs that were all lined up selling. And I guess, and each row downstairs, there must have been at least 2 or 3 grey marketeers. I can't even remember the names, and I wasn't even bothered about the names of them anyway. And then upstairs, you could go upstairs, and it was near the Zero West section upstairs. And then there was just one, which is that long line that you see of all those watches, all individually wrapped up. And that's why I said it looked like somewhere, where you might see them in China or Thailand, or I said China, but you could anywhere like that when you go and you just see these fake. Obviously they weren't fake watches, they were real watches. That's
Would they
obvious.
let people handle the watch? Would they actually let somebody try one on? Did you see anybody trying anything?
I think I saw 1 or 2 people trying on. Again, it never crossed my mind. I was so stupid. I should have, even sort of said, "Oh, can I just try such and such on?" I never even thought about that. But yes, you could do. And I saw some photographs on social media of people, and I think the friend that I was with, we had something to eat afterwards, and obviously he tried a couple on, and he showed me some photos. So yes, you definitely could do such thing, but like I said, it never crossed my mind. I basically, when I went, I took my camera with me, which I don't use now. When I do my camping videos and my other watch videos, I tend to use if my face is looking a bit red, it's because I've been camping for the last 3 days. And basically, I just normally take my iPhone and my GoPro when I go camping, and I do all my videos on that now because it's perfectly good enough for YouTube, really. And I did think, well, I'll just put a bit of effort. I'll put a bit of effort in, and I'll take my Sony camera with me, just on the off chance there would be something that would actually be, worth filming when I was there, because I didn't know what to expect. But then when I was there, I thought, well, there doesn't really seem anything really worth filming. And I thought, I can't be bothered to get my camera out. And what am I going to talk about? Because, if I hold the camera up, like, I can't show very well on the camera here, but, because normally when I'm doing YouTube or something like that, I hold the camera in front of me and then I'm talking into the camera. And I thought, well, there's so many people around, I'm going to look right. I'm going to look a right twit walking around. Although everybody does that, and I still haven't really quite got used to that. I don't mind doing that when I'm in the middle of Dartmoor, nobody can see me. But I still haven't really quite got used to doing that when there are loads of people around. Mm-hmm. So basically, I was there, and I thought, oh, I don't know, what am I going to do? I brought my camera, and I know what I do. I'll just take some footage on my phone, and then that way I can just sort of ad lib and do some words or something like that when I get home. I didn't really know what to say, and it was kind of good that I waited a day anyway before saying some words, because I think if I'd have come home and put some words to the pictures straight away, I probably wouldn't have been as calm and relaxed and polite as I was, because yes, I really was. It was very, very disturbing to see so many watches that the enthusiasts are trying, are trying to get, and we just can't get them. I mean, my history is in. And, obviously some people might say, well, he's only been collecting watches for, 4 years. What the hell does he know? Well, I don't really know a huge amount, but it's basically just an opinion and a thought, and that's it. And we're all really entitled to have an opinion.
The gray marketeer would say, sure, you can get the watch. Here they are.
Exactly. Are those ridiculous? Are those absolutely ridiculous?
What do you think? 30,000? How much is a Batman? Is it 25,000? Is it 20,000?
I think you're looking at a minimum of 20. I think you're looking at a minimum of 20 to 22,000 for the Batman, and I think for the Pepsi you're looking at a minimum of 23 to 24. A black Sky Dweller, because that's like an older version. On the Oyster they were doing, I think from memory, and I could be wrong, I think they said about 20,000, which were pounds. And then the new, which is the one I'm trying to get myself at this moment in time, the new Jubilee Blue Sky, they were trying to flog that one off for about 32 to 35,000 or something around about that ridiculous type of figure. And it's just it's just ridiculous sums of
and the
of
market
money.
price is what it sells for. So if they can sell it for that, well, I guess that's the market. But did you see
And
anybody
I
buying a
no,
watch?
I didn't see anyone buying anything. No, they must have sold something.
How would you
I
do that kind of transaction for that kind of money? A credit card, a check? I mean, are they going to take a check? What are they going to? Nobody's going to take cash in
They're
there.
not going to take cash, and they're not going to take check. Nobody's going to take a check there. My guess is maybe credit card, but who the hell's got a credit card with a credit
I don't.
limit that high?
Yeah,
I don't
exactly.
either. Nowhere near.
Yeah.
I mean, I could do a retail one, just at a pinch. But seeing
Or
my guess would be like
they'll take
a
your
bank,
information and then go meet you at your bank or something.
either that or maybe just do it there and then with like a bank transfer. You could do it as a bank transfer, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But whether any were sold, I don't know. But one thing I have noticed on the groups, there's one chap, I can't think of his name at the moment, but if he ever watches, I know who he is. And he checks on eBay, and he looks to see the prices that some of the watches get sold on eBay, and they're not actually as high as some of these watches are actually going for. So I think a lot of the time they're chancing their arm as to to find out whether they're actually going to get that price or not. But I would guess that you could beat them down. I would guess you could beat them down a little bit, but probably not a huge amount, because I think there probably is the market. I think it probably is the market price for them. And like as I was saying, earlier, basically I was just walking around with my phone, just taking some video, and it really did feel quite sad, because in 2018 I bought one, which was the Yachtmaster,
The
and
blue
that was always
dial.
my intention, the blue dial, and I never actually intended to do any more. I wasn't even planning on the Yachtmaster, to be honest. I can see there's a couple of comments. I'll have a quick look at those in a minute, because I can see Richard has put a few there, and we'll have a quick look at those in a moment. But basically I started with the because originally I was going to get the Amiga, because obviously a lot of people who are watching now, they don't know how I started, but basically I was going to get an Amiga, and I went along, and my authorized dealer, which is the same one then as now, it's the same person. I was very lucky, actually. I think I started at just about the right time, to be honest. And I was going to see one of the Amigas, and I said, well, by chance, because I'd seen some videos on YouTube of the Rolex Yachtmaster, the blue dial one, and I did think that just looked really, really quite nice. So basically, I just said to my authorized dealer, I said, well, do you have a blue dial Yachtmaster available? Because at that time I had no idea about any of this. I didn't, to me, they were just watches. I didn't know anything about anything. And he said, oh yes, so at that time in beginning of 2018, they had a blue dial Yachtmaster in the window. So of course he brought it over to me, and I had a look at it, and the Amiga was very nice, but the blue dial Yachtmaster with the platinum ring, it just blew the
Right,
Amiga
something
out the
else. Yeah.
water. I mean, it was just something else. But because it was quite expensive, it was about 50% more than the Amiga. I was like sort of I said to him, can you buy it without the platinum tile on it? I thought maybe can you buy it a bit cheaper or something like that. Of course not. And then I went away and I thought about it for about 20 minutes or something like that. And then of course I went back and I just had to get it. If I'd have got the Amiga, yes, I'm sure. I mean, I might get an Amiga in the future, but I think if I'd have got the Amiga, I think I'd have been thinking, oh, I wish I'd got that Rolex. So, I kind of went for the one that the heart went for.
Good for you.
And then it kind of, then I wasn't going to do anything. And then I thought, that's it. I'm not doing anything else. And then I joined a couple of Facebook groups. And then after joining the Facebook groups and seeing some of these sports Rolex, I thought, well, they look quite nice actually, because I hadn't really studied it properly before, and I thought, well, they do look quite nice. So then I basically then asked if I could have the white dial, the white dial Explorer 2, and I think I asked probably about October time 2018, and my authorized dealer said, yes, but we will just wait, just be patient because they're not available at this moment in time. And of course, I was on a few of the Facebook groups, and there were some that were not quite as friendly as others, let's say, and they were saying, oh, you're waiting too long. You shouldn't have to wait that long. That's an easy watch to get. Get rid of your authorized dealer, go somewhere else, and all that other nonsense. And they were some people were trying to sell me watches which might even have been some might have been from grey market friends or something like that. God alone knows, who knows. And I didn't have any of that. I said, I'm not getting anything other than from my authorized dealer, and that's it. And I still at that moment hadn't even considered that I would be getting more in the future, as it were. So anyway, I just waited and waited, and then beginning of 2019, the Explorer 2 White Dark came along, and then of course, and then after that, and about a few months later, the new Batman came out on the Jubilee bracelet, and I said, "Oh, could I have one of those?" And I got hold of that in about August 2019, and that was my third watch. So I got very, very lucky with my dealer that I was able to get hold of these. But then in 2020, that's when I got the Hulk and the Daytona. So I got those in 2020. But then last year, I just got the one, unfortunately. So, which was the Pepsi on the Oyster bracelet, and I got the first one in the store. So I got kind of lucky in that regard that I got the first one. That came in. But unfortunately, that's the only one I got last year. So we'll kind of have to wait and see whether we get lucky this year, whether we get two, or if it's anything like last year. I think it might just be the one that we get, because they're getting harder and harder to
So
see.
did you put another order in, or have you talked to them? Are you waiting for another one?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Basically, I'm hoping for Submariner. That's obviously the no date, just to annoy
Oh,
my good
beautiful.
friend.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, just
good,
to annoy my
great.
good friend. But the Submariner, the Jubilee, Blue Sky, and the Black Dial Polar 2, and the James Cameron Deep Sea. So those are like the four that I've got sort of requested at
Wow.
the moment. I'm kind of hoping that we'll get the Jubilee Blue Sky next, but I
Well,
don't
you're
know.
a
We'll just
heavy
have to
hitter.
wait and
You've
see.
got those great watches.
Yeah,
Good for
I've
you.
got a good collection. I've got a good collect. I got very lucky. I mean, it's clearly got a lot harder. It's clearly got a lot harder. Like I said, I only got one last year, so it's got a lot harder. But I got lucky. I have to say, I got very, very lucky
I
with
got to ask you a
that.
question. When
Hmm.
you're in your tent out there in the rain with Lassie,
Hmm.
you're not regretting those watches? You don't think about watches? Do you think about the Rolex at all?
No, well, sometimes, because I don't always. I used to take one or two with me on my early camps. I don't always take them now because they're so expensive. I
Right,
don't want to risk, I don't want to risk losing one, so I don't always take them now.
right.
But sometimes I still wear one, because that's what I got them for. I got them to wear, and I got them to enjoy. And the only reason probably now I don't wear one every single day, like today I've got the 50 fathoms on, and then I've got the small collection and I partly blame Richard for that one too, of the G-Shocks. You know, so I've got about four-ish G-Shocks now, or was it 5? So I sort of tend to rotate those around. So I probably wear the Rolex a bit less now than I used to, and I don't keep them all here, obviously, because you can just put them in the bank. So I just keep them safe, obviously, that way. But you know, I still rotate them around, so they still get, you know, they still get plenty of use. And certainly when I'm, you know, when I'm getting them, it's certainly with the intention of wearing them. And I will take every single one camping with me at some point or another. I mean, like I said, and I'll walk Lassie with them. You know, if I'm in the garden and I happen to have a Rolex on at that time, I just wear it. I mean, to me, it's just another watch. It's not. Yes, of course, it's, you know, it's an investment. You know, clearly we understand the market of them and everything else like that. But I haven't bought them so much for that. Maybe like when I'm, you know, very old and decrepit or something like that, and I need some bread and water or something for the table, then obviously I know I've got something that I can sell. But I mean, that is in the future, and I certainly wouldn't. I have no intentions of selling any of them. But basically, and I think this was one of the things. Well, this was one of the things that my authorized dealer said to me, was that what he liked was that I was choosing specific watches. So before I got the Daytona, I said, I've got an underwater watch, an overwater watch. I got a watch for the Keys, and I got a watch for the air. I haven't got a driving watch. Can you, you know, any chance you could get me a Daytona? And then 6 months later, a Daytona turns up. So, you know, I think that he quite liked that. But I mean, we had a good relationship. You know, we used to go along and
Keep it.
see
You've got a
them.
great one. Keep that
Yes,
relationship. Has he
yeah,
dropped
definitely.
any hints that like it may be changing on how Rolex will allocate their watches or anything like that?
I haven't heard anything
And he
about
would
that,
know,
no.
right?
Yeah, you would think so, but again, I think that only Rolex probably knows exactly what's going on, and they probably don't tell anybody. But yeah, I haven't heard anything. All I've heard is that obviously they're more difficult to get, and you know, basically, if I get one this year, then that's kind of like a bonus. So we're like fingers crossed that we get one, and you know, would
So do
hope I would get one.
they just give you a call when they get it in their shop, in their store?
Yeah, yes,
It's
yeah,
just like,
yeah,
hey Tony, we guess we got it. Come on down.
yeah, yeah.
Cool.
So I've either a phone call, or I would get like a text message, like a message or something like that on my phone. But yeah, it's 50-50 really. I think a couple of them I've had a message, and I think with the Daytona it was a phone call, because I think he was as excited as I was, to be honest. So I think with the Daytona, I got a phone call, you know, for that one.
Now
So
you've bought a few other items from him, but you don't have like a massive amount that you've bought other than Rolex.
correct, yes,
Right.
yeah,
So this is
I
like
kind of got lucky on that one as well, to be honest. And I obviously
he
think
he
that
he
if
never
people are go on.
he never said to you, "Hey Tony, you really should be buying. We need to you need to buy more to in order to get a Rolex." He never hinted at that at
No,
all.
no,
Okay.
he's never said that to me. But then, you know, I've bought a lot of Rolex. So obviously, you know, I bought the when I bought my first one, I actually bought my wife a Rolex as well, and that was like a blue dial date 36 or 38 millimeter
Right. Right.
Rolex at the same time, obviously, as mine. Um, but like I said, I think they were marginally, and I stress marginally easier maybe to get back then as well. And but yeah, I think now is you're kind of at the point now, if you're a new buyer, then you probably do need to be going in and getting to
So
know them,
so let's
and
say
maybe buying
I
something.
was a younger man and there's an AD in my town. What would you say to me? Just go in there, be honest, chat up with them, and let them know who you are, and what? Just
I
say,
think so. I think, and a wing and a prayer, to be honest. I think the
and if
way that the market is at the moment, if I've bought obviously 6, well, actually it's 7, and I had bought some other bits there, which doesn't matter for this, but I had bought a couple of other bits, but not big things. There, and I think you're going to struggle. What I think where you could start, and if you were thinking of starting a collection, then you probably need to be looking at something like a two-tone Rolex Explorer, as in that the Rolex Explorer two-tone.
Right.
I think you stand a very good chance of getting one of those, because a friend of mine who I do know, he contacted my dealer, because I did mention who my dealer was, and he contacted my dealer, and he was able to buy, and I think it was something like 6 months or something like that. It was quite a wait, but he was able to get a two-tone Explorer, which was like the
And then
36
establish a
millimeter.
relationship with.
Build your way up, slowly with this, if you're going to do it. Otherwise, if you go in and you haven't bought anything at all, I don't think you're going to get anything else. Maybe if you go in and talk nicely to them, we do hear happy stories on the groups and things like that, where someone has gone in and they've never bought anything else, and obviously maybe it's some anniversary or such and such, or something like that, and they do just sometimes manage to secure an Explorer, or maybe a Submariner or something like that. But generally speaking, I think it's one of those, and I think it's something that probably doesn't happen, very often. And I think, unfortunately, it's seeing my thoughts and my opinions on it is that, unfortunately, I think people are probably buying them and then selling them, and somehow the AD doesn't know what's going on, which is a bit of a shame, because I think they should
Of course,
somehow. I'm sure they do monitor it. I'm sure they
if I
do
was
monitor it.
if I was a younger man and I did buy that two-tone, I'd go back in 6 months wearing the two-tone and chat up with them.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And then if you do that, then I think you stand a reasonable chance of getting something else. But you might, I think now, unfortunately, you might have to be thinking about buying something else in that store, or maybe a different watch brand or something like that, to give you a bit of a leg up. I think if you just buy the two-tone Explorer, I'm not sure that you would get another. You might get another Rolex, but clearly I don't think it's going to be one of the main ones. Maybe you might get a Submariner, but I think you're going to have a bit of a job. I don't know. This is above
So
me. I don't know.
so when does it end for you, Tony? When do you stop buying Rolex? Is it going to end early?
Uh yeah, it's a
I
good
don't think so.
question, isn't it? Probably not. It depends how many I can get. Like I said, I've got 4 others that I would like to get, in the not too distant future. When, if it's like 2 a year, then obviously it was done in 2 years. But I only got 1 last year, so I'm not holding my hopes up too much that I will get 2 every single year now. I think that's maybe less likely. So if it's only 1 a year, then then I think you've just got to see what happens. To be honest, and it depends what comes out this year. I got lucky last year with the Oyster Pepsi, um, but we'll have to see what happens this year. I think now it's got even harder to get. That basically we're now waiting to see what comes in. Really, something like that. Should we just have a quick look at some of these comments? Let's just have so Shane was asking who's buying these watches at such exorbitant prices. I think it's basically, if you can't buy, because some people, they're not going to want to start the journey, are they? They're going to just want to get one watch, and then they're not going to want to be buying 2 or 3 or 4. And if that's the case, and if you don't want to be buying, like a load of Rolex, or a load of jewelry or something else like that, then, unfortunately, your only option probably is to go these grey markets. And and then maybe just try and beat them down on the price, a little bit, and whether they budge on the price, probably not very much. But yeah, I think basically, the only people who are really going to be buying them are someone who's just, because there's no point if you're not going to be, collecting them or something like that, then that's the only people who's going to be buying them. And then just the other thought that I had is, once someone starts, you kind of got to hope that obviously with someone like me, I keep the watch. My AD knows I've got all the watches. He follows my channel anyway as well. In fact, one of the first things I actually told him, when I was doing is, oh, by the way, I got a YouTube channel. Why don't you subscribe? You can see me showing off my watches in the middle of that or something. So I think that probably helped as well, because then he knew that, that the watches were getting used and I wasn't flogging them on or something. But unfortunately, obviously, they're so expensive that probably in some ways, people are buying them, these flippers. People like, not me, but, just the general public. Because personally, I think it's more the general public that's doing this than anything else. It's just, that's an opinion and that's all. But I think that generally it's just someone goes in, buys one, and then sells it. And then obviously they're building up a relationship by buying watches and then, and then selling it. And then obviously, presumably the AD can't keep track of every watch that every person buys. I'm sure they do the best that they can, and I'm sure they monitor it quite well. And I'm sure that there's the buyer who wants to keep their watch, will show their watch, because like I said, that's what I did. I'd always walk in and show my watch and everything else like that.
Now,
But I guess you're always going to,
if you were to sell one of your watches, you would probably tell your AD, like, yeah, I have a
yes,
private party here and I'm going to sell it. And,
yes,
you don't
yes,
have to tell
yeah,
the
yeah,
price.
and yes, and that would be fine, as long as it was, as my understanding is, as long as you wait a minimum of 2 years, and then after 2 years, then it wouldn't cause a problem. But I think if you did it before 2 years and they found out about it, that's when I think it would cause a problem, and you would probably, and quite rightly, in my opinion, be blacklisted for selling it on. But like I said, unfortunately, my guess is that people sell them on and just don't say anything, to their AD, and their AD probably doesn't think about, because let's face it, I mean, in my world, it'd be like a dictatorship, and the AD should only sell to someone who walks in and says, "Look, I've still got my 4 watches from the previous sales." But obviously, it's not a dictator. It's not a Tony dictatorship, and obviously the ADs, can't do that. So, I suppose they have to be a bit more careful with. Yeah, I suppose they if you've bought a watch, you have a history of buying a watch, and they can't check on every single one, even if they want to. Bugsy, hello Tony. I've decided to ignore the naysayers, and I've begun the process of trying to acquire my next Rolex from my local authorized dealer. So yeah, I mean, good luck. And I think down below, I think Richard has made another comment about that as well. This is common practice at these types of shows, as there are similar shows and sitters around the world, and two such shows in Pittsburgh every year, dominated by smaller jewelers and grey marketeers. So yeah, I'm not surprised that they do these things all over the world, and I think they got a one in Las Vegas or something like that, where I think certain people are going out to. Most transactions on site are plastic, and if a money bank transfer or cash is used, they would be done at a later time and location. Okay, so that's kind of answered the what we were talking about earlier on there, Lex. So yeah, I mean, I was guessing that mostly it would be done either there or they would sort it out later on. Hello, Paul. My goodness me, a yacht master in the shop window in only 2018, not even 4 years ago. You got quite a collection. Did you hear that? So what's Richard? Do not go into any preconceived thoughts regarding the watch you want. As one AD who I trained, if she likes the individual, will go to the vault and come out with 3 to 4 on the hot on the hot examples. Yeah, I mean, again, that's yeah. I mean, and Richard's going to know a hell of a lot more than me. I'm going to hold my hands
Well,
up when it comes to Richard.
let me just interject. That did happen to me. I'm an older man, and I went in there looking at the showcase, and then I was talking in general terms, and I mentioned the Air King, and he says, "You know what? I may have one in the safe for you. Would you like to see it?" And I thought,
Right.
but I didn't want to buy it. And if he brought it out, and but I didn't. So if your demeanor is appropriate, and they kind of figure you out, they're sizing you up, and then you don't know what's in the back room. But I really like Frank's comment here on the last one, or one of them. It says, "Be ready to buy that day." Yeah, if you're going to go in
Right.
there,
Yeah.
and if you just happen to hit it, you got to be able to. You never know when that time will happen again. You got to do it.
Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So one, be open-minded, and two, be ready to buy that day. It may be far. I know far for farm ads that deal with a first-time buyer like them. They will make the do not tie kick. Only go in if you are able to leave the AD with the watch. If they have one that strikes your fancy, why they did this, and the guy didn't get a second chance, don't play games with them. Yeah, exactly. And again,
I
I'll
would go as
bow
far as
to
to say
Richard's
is
things here.
if there's a Steel Sports in there, just buy it. You'll
Yes,
like it. At
exactly.
least you're a Rolex owner now. If you've always wanted a Rolex, well, I don't want that one. I want a no date sub. Now you've limited yourself.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and then they might not even sell you another one then if well, they might do. I don't know, but if you turn them down and you say, "Oh, I'm not going to," or something like that. Like I said, I got kind of lucky, but then it was 4 years ago, and I only thought about it for 20 minutes. So I think if you think about it for a few minutes, you're probably okay. But yeah, clearly, if if you go away and you think about it for a day or two, especially
It'll be
today,
gone.
then
They'll sell it that day. Really,
yeah, well, yeah, it's not going to stay. It's not going to stay
they're
long,
not
and
going
they've
to
probably
hold it.
got. No, and obviously they've clearly got a list longer than longer than my arm, of people waiting, people waiting to buy it. So quite clearly, if you're going in and you're asking and they take a liking to you, and it does happen, what Richard is saying there, RPJ, what you're saying there is, it does happen. We have seen stories, and we can't substantiate them, but I'm sure that there are some when people go in and they do get lucky and they will walk out, with something. And if the AD takes a liking to you, then you're going to get one, quite clearly. But they are increasingly, difficult to get hold of. That is for sure. Hang on, I got some water somewhere. Oh, there it is. Hang on, just wet my whistle a minute. I was thinking of something else when we were talking about the watches earlier on as well. I'm trying to think what that was.
At the London Watch Show.
Mm.
So did you happen to see Rod Stewart down there?
No, I didn't. No, I didn't. Funnily enough, I sort of because most of the comments on the video were very very supportive, and obviously there was one or two or three or four, but not that many comments that said, what did you expect? It was a business, did you not see? Because obviously I only mentioned a couple of people, and obviously I did that for two reasons. I try not to use clickbait, but obviously, it was like a gray area of clickbait because I did see them and they were in the video. So, I mean, that helps attract,
Right.
that. So there was kind of a reason, for doing that. I
Hey,
didn't
it got
just
my
look for them.
attention. It got my
Yes.
attention.
Well, you told me that you searched one of those names. So obviously that, caught your attention, and then you were straight on watching, and then you watched and everything else, like that. And then it was after watching that, you then sent me the message saying that you wanted to do a live stream with me. And I was like thinking, hang on a minute, I've never heard of you. Let's have a conversation first, which we did.
Right.
We reached out to each other. We spoke. We saw each other on FaceTime, talked a couple of times, and I thought, okay, he's not a nutter. I'm not a nutter. Okay, you sound fine to bring on here. So it kind of, yeah, so that was good. But one of the comments was, did I not see anyone else other than said two gentlemen? And I didn't see anybody else. Apparently there was
Right.
like YouTubers there and other things like that,
Right.
but I didn't see anybody else. In fact,
Right.
bizarrely, one person actually recognized me from a camping channel, because I've been doing YouTube on my camping channel for like 10 or 12 years or something. So one person actually approached me and said, "Oh, Tony," and so I had a conversation. He obviously did his camping stuff, and then he was into watches as well. And Bugsy, who's put some comments down here as well, he knows me from the camping first.
Right.
So it's kind of interesting that there are a few people, that were watching the camping channel for X number of years, and sort of a few of them migrated over to this channel as well. So that's kind of interesting. But yeah, one person said, well, didn't you see anybody else? Rod Stewart was there, and I didn't see
Right.
anybody else, but maybe they were there on a different day. So
But it was pretty busy, even on a Sunday. It seemed like there were a lot of people there.
there was quite a few people there, although again, because I'd never been before, it was difficult to judge how busy it was. And from what I heard, people were saying it wasn't that busy. So it was kind of like 50-50, really. I mean, there was a few people there, but it wasn't there was stacks and stacks of room to move around. You certainly wouldn't, you weren't pushing each other out of the way or anything at all, like that. It was it was definitely an eye opener, and I probably spent as much time, I think, in the tea section drinking cups of tea as I did anywhere else. Because basically the first thing I did was have a cup of tea, because my original plan was to go on the Saturday, because one friend was thinking about going on the Saturday, but he couldn't make it, and I knew that another friend was going on the Sunday, so I sort of cancelled the Saturday ticket, which was an early bird ticket.
Right.
So that cost me £25. So I got the money back for that one. But then, of course, to go on the Sunday, I had to pay the full price. So I had to pay the 40 odd pounds or whatever it is to go on the Sunday. But it was good I changed, because then I knew someone there, and then we had something to eat, afterwards. So it kind of
Did you
worked
have
out
did you
okay.
have conversations with anyone else there? Was there, like, any
No,
talk of the show?
no,
Okay.
no.
Were
Like I
you
said,
awa
go
were
on.
you aware at that time of the robbery that had allegedly taken place? The missing
Only
watch?
from Yes, yeah. Only because I'd seen someone else. I'm not going to name any names, obviously, but only because I'd seen a live stream from another YouTuber that had been
Oh,
talking
okay.
about it. So
Okay.
so I'd heard about it, but I don't really think anything was mentioned about it there. So it was, yeah, and I didn't really speak to anybody there apart from a couple of the
Was there an
stalls.
obvious, security presence when you
Not
were there?
really, not
Not really?
really. I mean, when I walked in, there was a few people at the door. Um, the interesting thing was, and I don't know whether it was because sometimes I'm not a paranoid person at all, but because I had my phone, had my because I'm a two phone person, and I basically now, like I said, I use the iPhone primarily for videos and watching videos, because the camera on it's perfectly good enough for YouTube and what I do. So basically, I was going around and I was like just videoing watches and things like that. And you were allowed to do it, so it was fine to do it. But at one point, I did feel like there was a burly gentleman walking behind me. Now, it could quite likely just be another customer or just someone else walking around. But I just had this feeling on the back of my neck that maybe someone was just monitoring what I was doing, as I was just using like a like my phone like that. So I kind of had the impression that someone was keeping an eye on me, but maybe that was just my imagination, I don't know. But I didn't really see any heightened security, and in a way, I'm surprised that there must have been people around, though, because
Right.
I guess if someone had grabbed a watch and started walking, it would have been noticed, and someone would have shouted out or something like that. So I can't imagine you would have got very far. They were at the door and that type of thing. Um, so Yeah, I know. So someone down here, Frank, but the London Watch Show 2022 was not that busy. It was not a sellout, and there was plenty of room to move around. And I suspect it was the case that Sir Rod Stewart just simply walking through the hotel. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. I mean, it certainly wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't busy. You could walk around quite easily, and I certainly didn't. I certainly didn't see him. Like I said, just one comment was, didn't you see him there? Like I should have spotted him or something. I probably wouldn't even know what he looked like, to be honest. Maybe I would have curly hair or blondie curly hair or something. I don't know. But I'm certainly not going to be walking up to Rod Stewart and imagine me, like 600 subscribers, walking, oh, Rod Stewart, do you fancy appearing on my YouTube channel or something like that? So, I mean, I tend to ignore people, really. I tend not to, obviously I interacted with one YouTuber as I put in the video, and that was, and that was that. But nobody really approached me apart from the one person, that knew me. And it was just, yeah, I mean, it was just fun. And like I said, I think what I was thinking when I started doing, taking videos on my phone, that's when I was thinking, okay, now I won't bother talking because I don't really know what I'm going to say. And I really did feel quite emotional actually when I was seeing all those watches like that. It was an uncomfortable feeling thinking, well, I'm waiting for that one, and I'm waiting for that one. Yeah, every single one that I was waiting for was there. So I saw at least one deep sea James Cameron. I think I saw one or two of the Jubilee Blue Skies. I saw it, several Submariners. I saw one or two of the, or several of, I say one or two, but whatever, several of the black die or Explorer 2s as well. So anyone else that would be going there looking, you can see all these watches lined out, and there's you sort of patiently waiting, for it to arrive. And it was just depressing, to be honest. It was just depressing, when you're waiting so long for something, to land at your authorized dealer, and yet they've got, like loads of these watches, and Christ knows how many more they've got,
And these are
stashed
like
away.
in mint condition, so somebody had just bought it and just flipped it that quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure they were all in excellent condition. Like I said, I didn't touch any or anything like that, but yeah, I'm sure they were in very, very good, yeah, virtually in new condition. And again, quite clearly, my opinion is that people like me, but not me, thank goodness, just go in, a customer goes in, knows what they're doing, buys one, and then just sells it straight away. And then obviously they don't say anything to their authorized dealer, and then they go back and then they probably get another one, and then they probably build up their reputation that way by buying lots and lots of watches. But given now, and I don't know how it's going to be for other people, but like I said, I only got one last year. So if I'm only getting one and I've had, 6 in total, you kind of hope that the bastard flippers, can't get quite so many, to flog on either, that maybe they try to spread it out a little bit more, which is, I think, what they're trying to do, that everybody tries to get something. But, we just have to wait and see. I know. It's a shame that it's got so difficult, to get hold of them. Let's have another look at a couple of these, because I know Richard's, but while all ADs are obviously different in how they handle individuals, if they bring out a watch that you truly do not want, just don't buy it to get on the books. Be honest with them and tell them you don't want it. Most ADs that I've dealt with will respect that, and you will in all likelihood get a future call from them. Now, Richard, that's exactly what my AD said to me almost at the very beginning, not literally at the very beginning, because I'd literally only bought the one. But when I bought, I think maybe around about the Polar time, or maybe when I got the Jubilee BLN, the Batman, my authorized dealer said to me, if ever you can't get one for whatever reason, financial or anything like that, just say that you're going to pass this time, and they will then, just think of you at some point, in the future. So yeah, that I've actually heard. My AD said that exactly to me, that if you can't get a watch at that moment in time, then you won't be blacklisted. They won't say, oh, he hasn't bought a watch and we're never going to sell him one again. So yes, exactly correct. That's what I heard. If you
Do you think
say
they've
genuinely,
actually blacklisted people like your AD? Do you think he's really has a short list of people that he knows he would never sell to?
yes. I mean, I don't know about my AD, because obviously I don't know, but I've definitely heard that people have been blacklisted. Definitely. I mean, I've listened and I've been on the Facebook groups and things like that now for about 3.5, 4 years since I started this now. And people, I wouldn't say regularly, because it's not regularly, but people definitely do come on now and again and say, or, I bought a watch and I had to sell it. And I told my authorized dealer I had to sell it, but they've sold it like after 6 months or a year, and then they'll get blacklisted. And then they're
Really?
obviously not,
Okay.
yes. Yeah. And obviously they're not
Wow.
very happy about that. But then, it's a bit of a
Well,
tough one, isn't it? But,
actually, they can't afford. If you need the money, you can't afford a Rolex. Really, if you have to sell your
well, that's
watch, you
it.
should.
Yeah, exactly. You shouldn't have bought it in the first place,
Yeah.
really. Really, basically, yeah. From my understanding, if you keep it at least 2 years, then you'll be fine to sell it. And tell your authorized dealer, I've had it for 2 years, and the chances are you would be okay after 2 years, um, to sell it, and then get something else. Either sell it through your authorized dealer or sell it privately, or whatever. But I think after 2 years, you would be okay, most likely, at that
Right.
point. But I think I have heard that people have sold at the 18-month mark, a year and a half, and they have been blacklisted. So, if you're going to be selling your watch, I would not be doing it. I would not be doing it there before 2 years, and even then I would probably be holding out for 6 months, or another year over and above the 2 years.
Right.
It's
Right.
just too risky. And I think, it's just better just to show, and also just to show them that, that you've still got the watch. I mean, I just hope that they do what they can, to crack down on this, because it's really, I really don't. Hate is a very, very strong word, and it's, we don't hate anything, but I really truly dislike, these flippers that they go in and they buy, and then they sell the watch, and it's not popular. You can see, looking at the comments on the video that I did, it's not popular. And someone on one of the watch groups that I'm on, they bought, I can't remember which one it was now, but they bought a watch, and literally, on the forum, on the group, they said, I've just bought this and I'm now selling it. And they were slaughtered, literally slaughtered. They were
Well,
slaughtered
what
by
were they
everybody
asking
within the
for?
group.
Were they like
Yeah,
doubling the price?
exactly. Yeah, I
Oh,
think
wow.
so. I
Wow.
think so. I mean, they didn't hang around for very long, because, I mean, it
Right.
wasn't my group; it was another one. But I know, but my friend who's a moderator on it, he and I, and as moderators, we probably should keep quiet and not really get too involved. But we really dislike this practice, and we kind of jumped on him too.
Right.
So he didn't hang around. He didn't hang around he didn't hang around very long. If a life event occurs and one has to sell their Roly, I would go first to the AD where you bought it, explain your situation, and give them first right of refusal. Yeah, and you would be able to, certainly with my authorized dealer, you could definitely sell your watch, to them. And I would imagine that if an absolute emergency came up and you sold it to your own authorized dealer, you're not going to get,
Right.
a very good price for it, obviously. But
Right.
in that regard, you might get away with it, because obviously you're selling it, back to them. But again, I won't quote me on that one. I don't know. That I'm not sure about. But yeah, I would guess if you sold it back to them and you explain the situation, you might get away with that. But certainly, and I've definitely heard because someone that I don't really know them as such, but I know them, in passing on the groups, that someone I know sold a watch after 18 months because of a life event. But whether it might even have been an excuse, who knows? We don't know.
I do have
And then they were blacklisted. So
I do have a question. Since you have a collection, do you wind them daily, or do you have winders, or how do you? And they're relatively new, so they haven't been serviced. They're not going to need a service for a while.
no, because I don't always keep them around now. I used to keep them all with me, and then I was rotating them, and I used to keep them on a watch winder. But then because there's so many now, I don't keep them all around me now. So no, they're not wound up all the time. So they will run out, and then I got to change the date and time on them when I grab hold of them. So yeah, so they they run out now, and then I got to wind them back up again when I go and grab one.
I have a neighbor who I've been here in this house for a year. I've only been here a year, and I went over to talk to him, and he had a bluesy on, a two-tone bluesy, which I've never seen before. And he saw me looking at it, and he goes, "Yes, it's real." So, and I kind of, had a little conversation with him, but his wife bought it for him, and he's had that thing over 15 years, and it's still running. It's still running, and I go, and he put it on a winder. And I said, well, eventually you'll need a service. And where we live, it's pretty rural. And so, and that's what he's worried about too. You got to take it to a legitimate dealer, or I don't know what he's going to do, but that's his problem, not mine.
Right. Yes. Yeah. I think, again, Richard, who's probably watching, he can probably comment, but I think he's got watches that are more than 10 years old and haven't been serviced yet. Basically, I think the thing is, obviously, if it needs a service, get it serviced. But probably if it's still working perfectly well, I would probably be tempted to leave it, very well alone until such time,
Absolutely.
until such time that, that it's running slow or stops and it won't start or something.
Or
and
it'll
then
start, it'll stop and then start, or it'll just stop,
Yeah.
and it's kind of something's wrong. It needs some oil.
Yeah, that's right.
Needs a
Yeah, I
service.
think so. Yeah, definitely. We got a couple of other questions over here. So Frank said it wasn't that busy. Nope. Frank then says, if it had been a toy train show, Sir Rod Stewart most definitely would have been there, as he is a well-known toy train enthusiast, as he has one of the world's best toy train sets. All right, I didn't know that. Interesting. We've got a little conversation going on between two friends of mine there. Raggin Reiner, hi, hello there. AD should be more careful. I agree with what Raggin Rhino is saying. You kind of got to put your trust in the authorized dealers and hope that they, I kind of get the impression from talking to mine that they do their due diligence and they try to monitor it as best as they can. Like I said, you clearly can't be like a Tony dictator and say, right, every time you come in, bring all of your watches in, so we can see you've still got them all. But one would certainly have to hope that they monitor it carefully. And obviously the big dealers are probably owned by the same group. And then if they get your email address and your name and that type of thing, you would hope that they have a computer system which would, be able to, track who's getting. So if you try to go to one dealer and then another dealer and they're in the same group, you kind of got to hope, that they could track you down that way. But like I said, people definitely do get blacklisted, because I've seen on the forums that people come on every now and again, complaining they've been blacklisted, and we all have a pretty good laugh really when that happens, because it's like you've asked for it. If you're going to be if you're going to be flogging it on and you get caught, then you deserve to be blacklisted. That's my thought anyway. You just don't buy it and keep it, or pass to let someone else get it, which is my bugbear on it a little bit. Oh, so it is, ragging. I was at the watch show and completely felt the same as you did. Oh, hang on, we're getting a few extra questions, comments here. Felt the same as you did, and I have a great relationship with my AD and picked up my olive blue dial rose gold day date before I went to the watch show. I think I remember you ragging Rhino. I think that I remember you writing that in your comments. So it's nice that you wrote that there and that you're here with us here as well. Just don't know if people like you and me that have a good relationship can feel in same way as the people who have struggled to get a relationship going. Took me a few years to find my AD. I think some people are going to really find it difficult, in this today. I think you're going to find it difficult. Like I said, I got really, 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 really lucky with my authorized dealer because one, like I said, I wasn't even planning on buying a Rolex. I was first of all going to get the Omega, then switched over to the Blue Dial Yachtmaster. And then at the same time as getting that one, I got my wife a Rolex as well, without really having any understanding about them whatsoever. So it was kind of like, it's quite nice in my position because he's kind of like followed my journey all the way through. And of course, we just get on really well. It hasn't been quite so easy with this bug thing that's, going around and screwed everything up for everybody. Then it's being more difficult to get in and see them. And then you've often got to make an appointment now, and then you only get a set amount of time. And it is more difficult now because of that as well. Whereas again, when I started, which was 2 years before this bug thing came along, you could just pop in, you didn't need to make an appointment. I'm sure they had appointments, but, I certainly never had to. You just went in, popped in, and if you was free, you sit down and talk and have a cup of tea and you talk about anything. Often I never even spoke about watches. I just talk about, the state and affairs of whatever. We wouldn't even talk watches sometimes. It might be just at the very, very end of the conversation, or, don't forget, I'm waiting for such and such, just as a passing comment, really. So I think that's what helped me, a lot. And as I said, I just sort of, just got to know, I got bloody lucky, really. I think the chances these days of someone, walking off the street and hitting it off with their dealer, as Raggin Rhino says, it took him years to find the right one. And that's probably the story, that is. I think I just got lucky. I've probably like 1 in a million or 2 million or something, like that. I've spoken to people that, that know that, how I've done it, and they've said, you were lucky how you it kind of fell it fell in my lap almost. But yeah, I mean, as Raggin Rhino says, you really, really are going to struggle these days. And that basically is because, people are buying them and then they're going off and flogging them. So if that's happening, then when you actually want to get one, it's not there. You've got to wait for the next one to come in then. And what's the chance then of that person who gets that one keeping it or flipping it? Clearly quite a few are getting flipped. And hopefully, I would imagine that, a good percentage are being kept. I don't know. I've got no idea. What the hell do I know? But I would imagine a good percentage are being kept. But I would imagine there is, that small percentage that, that is flipping them on.
I got a question for you, Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So Rolex makes a decision. They're just going to adjust the prices on all the Rolex Steel Sport to what the
Mm-hmm.
market is. Would you buy any more? If a Batman was 30,000, would you buy it?
No, because that would price me out completely, and that would probably price most people out, to be honest. So no, if it
would
got
become
to
like
that, then
it'd be like a Patek, right? It would
yes,
just be
exactly.
something you wouldn't even
Yeah.
look at.
Yeah,
Okay.
no. I mean, it's getting to the point now. I can still just about manage it at the moment, but I mean, I wouldn't. And this is the other thing that actually does this is everything that does annoy me, a little bit, because you hear, obviously the prices when I started, the prices had already started to go up, but since I've started, the prices have gone up, I don't know, 3 or 4 or 5 times since I started. Maybe not 5 times, but they've certainly gone up 3 or 4 times.
Incrementally.
Incrementally, they've gone up. They've gone up. Like, I think the first one was like 5%, and then there was another like 5% or
Well, let's
something
say
like
they
that.
double overnight. Are you ever going to buy another Rolex?
No, I probably, if they went up that much, then no, I probably wouldn't. I know
Probably wouldn't.
probably not, because that probably would price me out of it at that point. That's why I certainly wouldn't buy them. I certainly wouldn't buy them grey market. But it does make me laugh when the price goes up, and then you hear people saying, well, that's going to stop the flippers from buying them. But actually it's not, because they're still going to just buy them, because they're going to flog them on anyway. So it
Right.
doesn't really make any difference. The person, in my opinion, the person that it's hurting by putting the pricing up all the time is me. It's not hurting the flippers, because the flipper is still just going to buy it at that price.
They know they're
Then
going to
he's
get
going
more
to
what they paid for it.
then he's going to get 10% back anyway, or whatever it's gone up by. And then of course the grey market dealer, he will then just put it up by 10%. So those people,
10.
it doesn't,
Yeah.
more than 10%, whatever they do. So those people are laughing. It doesn't matter to them. It doesn't
Right.
matter to them if Rolex put the price up, because they're just going to buy it. They buy their first watch, and then they sell it and they make a profit. So if Rolex then put the price up, well, they've already covered they've already covered the cost of the increase of the new watch, because they've made a fortune on the first one. So they then buy the next one with the price increase. They then flip that one on, and then they make a nice profit on that one. And then of course they can then get another one. So to them, my opinion anyway, and what do I know? It's just opinion. But then they just buying it and selling it. So to them, it makes no difference if Rolex put the prices up. They're laughing as far as I'm concerned.
Who's
Whereas every
laughing?
time
The gray
the
market's
flippers,
flipping?
the flippers and the grey market people, because to them they will then just sell it, or for more money. Their profit percentage will probably be the same. They're probably not going to make more money, but obviously they will just be selling it for more. I'm not saying they're going to make more. They probably won't make more, but
the good
they'll
news
certainly
is
just
when you saw all those watches at the London Watch Show, they haven't been sold. There they are. They're they haven't
yeah,
moved them.
exactly. Yeah, and there was like loads of them. So people are obviously not, they're not being sold in their,
If they're flying out the door, why even have the watch show?
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yes. Yeah, exactly. But like I said, going back to what I was saying, every time they put the price up by 10%, I mean, now they've gone up. So that's like over £1,000 more than it was, a few months ago. Now
Right.
that cost me another
Right.
£1,000. So it's costing me more to get them. And then I'm keeping them. I'm not selling them. So it's hurting, as far as I'm concerned anyway, it's hurting the genuine watch enthusiast. It's hurting that person, because it's costing them more money, to buy these things in the first place, because we're not selling them. If we were going to sell them, then we'd be laughing. We just sell them for more money anyway. But we're not. We're proper enthusiasts. We're not these people
Right.
that just buy for a profit. So it's hurting us more than more than the grey, more than the flippers and anyone else that's just flogging them on. So I'm getting a bit tired of Rolex putting the prices up, because like I said, it just costs me more money when I want to go and get it. And each time they have a price increase, because they're not exactly cheap anyway, they go up by £500 a time, or now it was like 10% last time. So now if I get another one of these watches, it's going to cost me £1,000 more now than it did before. And Rolex is probably putting the price up because of the flippers. So if people weren't effing around, we're actually keeping them, Rolex potentially might not be putting the prices up so much. Like I said, that's my opinion. I know I've heard plenty of things that they want to be, try and get up with Patek, and they probably would naturally put their prices up. But I'm sure, some of it has to do with the, with people flipping them, and then the flipping price, the flipping price, and then the flipping price being, so much higher, and they're probably just trying to reduce that a bit. But like I said, I don't think it's going to have any effect on them at all. That's what I think anyway.
Okay.
What does Richard say? They're going to give a decent price, as unlike their new watches, where they're limited to MSRP. As a pre-owned, they can and will charge grey market prices. Most will be within £1,000 or two of the grey market. So I think what Richard is saying there is, if buy a watch from you, that you will still get, a good price back from them. But like I said, I don't know. I personally wouldn't be rushing to sell, a watch, even back to the, to the dealer. I would have to be on my last legs to risk something like that. I'm sure you probably could sell back to them, but
Do you have
I would
heirs?
be.
Do you have
Sorry.
heirs to leave? You have heirs to leave your watches to.
No, 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 no.
So at
It's just
some point
me.
you will sell them then.
Probably at some point, maybe when I'm sort of, ancient and something,
Uh, uh,
when I'm very, very old, maybe.
what's
Or
very, very old? How old is very, very old?
I don't know, I'm 50 now. I mean, I would be surprised if I was selling anything before 70. I mean,
Okay.
like I said, my my thing is, if you can't afford it now, don't buy it. And also, if there's a chance that you might need, that money in the next, couple of years, then you shouldn't be buying it anyway. You should have
Right.
enough.
Right.
You should have enough money, in reserve to cover. I suppose if there was like like some sort of, calamity or something, but I can't, maybe the roof of your house blew off or something like that. But then the insurance covers that anyway, doesn't it? I can't. But yeah, I mean, I'm not planning on selling, anytime soon. And yeah, I suppose so if I haven't got anyone to leave them to, yeah, maybe when I'm, I might not even sell. Who knows? I might just might just hang
Then
on to them.
they end up in the
Then
estate sale, and then people
well,
come
that's the
in and
trouble. Yeah,
pick
that's the
them off.
trouble. Then yeah, then the government takes the government takes them. Then so yeah, I suppose if it gets to that point, probably better sell
Well,
them before.
it won't matter to you anyway.
Well, it won't, no, because I'll be gone, won't I? So it won't matter to me. Yeah, and everyone else can fight over it at that point. That's right. So AJK says, do you believe there are Rolex sports models that are more obtainable than others? Dream Watch's Explorer 2 white dial, and I'm hoping it's less popular than others. Well, I would say that the Explorer 2 probably is more obtainable than, a Submariner or a Daytona or a Batman or a Pepsi or something like that. So because I mean it was my second watch, so but then again I hadn't really asked for anything else either when I was asking for my white Explorer 2. But I would have thought that the white Explorer 2 would be easier um than some of the bigger models. But I think in order to get the white Explorer, you'd either have to be very lucky to get that as a first, or I think you're going to have to be getting another Rolex of some description first, and you might get that as a second watch, and I don't know. And like I said, I'm just me. I just been doing it for a few years. I just enjoy it. It's just, as someone said to me, I do it for the giggles. It's just fun to
Right.
me. So
Right. Right.
I don't take what I say with a pinch of salt, to be honest. But I would have thought that you would stand a reasonable chance of getting a white dial Explorer, but you would definitely be having to buy a Rolex before that. And and maybe something else as well. I'm not sure you would get that as a second watch. I think you might have to get something else as well. I think it really has got that difficult to do, because you remember when I got my Explorer 2, I bought the blue dial Yachtmaster plus the Rolex for my wife as well. So for me to get the Polar, I'd already bought two. I bought two at the same time at the very beginning of the journey, as it were. So the chances are you're probably going to have to get something else as well. Richard, I'm speaking to ADs buying back their pieces in my above comment. Yes. Yeah, I understand that, Richard. I guess that if you were desperate and you went back to your AD and you offered to sell it back to them, I guess you wouldn't be blacklisted. But like I said, I would be. I just personally would feel a little bit uncomfortable buying a Rolex and then 6 months or a year later going back to the same AD and and selling it to them. I'm not sure. I can't comment on that. All I know is I think I would be wanting to wait 2 years as a minimum. Even selling it back to them, I don't know. I don't know whether that would give you a blacklist or not. I don't know. Explorer 2 black dial is less popular than the white dial. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Dark Rose. I recognize that name as well. Yes, you've commented on the thing. So yes. Now, whether the black dial is now less popular because they've changed it now, haven't they? They've changed the hands on it and everything else like that. So it's still probably, I would say the white dial is still going to be more popular than I would say the white dial is going to be even now more popular than the black dial. Now, the old black dial, I didn't really like very much because the hands were those shadow hands and I didn't really like that so much. But the new black dial with the full loomed hands, I must admit, I think looks much, much nicer. So I would still imagine the white one is more popular. So if someone is looking for an Explorer, then you probably have a better chance of guessing the black one before the white one, I would imagine. Yeah. And Raggin Rhino says, I chat to my most days. He's become a friend and he is owner and MD of a big northern jewelry chain. I mean, that's basically what you have to try and do. You have to try and befriend them really, and just be friendly, polite, go along regularly, just keep in touch and show that you are very, very keen. Show that you're very, very keen on these watches. And I think, yes, I think you will, you'll get something eventually. You just need to be very, very patient. Richard has stated the black dial is less popular than the white dial. Yeah, definitely. He said to me to get the same collection together would now take 5 to 10 years. I mean, when I spoke to my authorized dealer as well, he said I came along at just about the right time and I kind of got lucky. And, I did ask, would I be able to get now if I'd have started now? And I don't think there's any chance that I would have got now what I've got. I just landed in it at just the right time, to be honest. I just got lucky there. Jake, just introduce yourself to your AD, strike up a conversation. I wouldn't even bring up what you'd like unless she asks. As Tony stated, don't even bring up Rolex or sound needy. Yeah, so just go along and start up a conversation with them about watches to show that you're interested. What people need to do is read what Richard RP Jake is writing, because he's like the absolute master of when it comes to this. So if he's writing something, take in what he's writing, ignore whatever I'm saying, listen to what Richard is saying, or read what he's saying, He knows his stuff more than anybody that I know, and that's a fact. AD relationship is based on your spend. Honestly, I prefer to pay double and have the luxury to shop with Rolex available on window stores. Honestly, I prefer to pay double and have the luxury to shop with Rolex available on Windows stores. Yeah, I mean, again, as Richard, Dark Rose is Dark Rose saying that. Yeah, I mean, if you're only going to be buying one, if you're only going to be buying one, then unfortunately you've got no choice but to, buy grey and then hope you can get, a good. I know it's just an opinion, brother. Yeah, but your opinion is something else, Richard. Let's face it. uh, when I got Ragging Rhino, when I got my olive dial, I paid 32,250. First one I saw at the show was 82,000. Told a dealer there I had one day, so not with me at the show, and he would give me 74,000. I got my 950 platinum white gold Patek Careless for less than a friggin' grey ceramic Daytona costs. If I didn't get my ceramic and steel Daytonas at MSRP, I wouldn't pay over 15k for any of them, not a penny. I was speaking of a life crisis where one needed 10 to 15k immediately with no other avenue to obtain it. Yes. Yeah. Obviously, if there's an absolute, emergency and you need the money, then yes. Bugsy, I don't think so, Tony. I believe that Rolex are mirroring the real life effects of of what's happening. Yeah, probably. I'm sure Rolex are just putting up the prices because everything just goes up. It's just annoying because like I said, it just makes everything more expensive for the likes of the true buyer, who it's just going to cost more to buy it in the first place. AJ, thanks, or good luck to everyone. Bugsy, money printed over the last decade or so. Tyler Rose, do you think that Rolex would benefit from the watch craze seen through the Moon's watch? I wondered how long it would take us to get to the Moon's watch. I don't know. I mean, like I said, I saw this moon watch thing. I saw something put up on the internet the other day on Facebook or something like that, and I didn't even know what the heck they were talking about. And then I sort of obviously then realized that it was, this Omega swatch type of thing like that. But I mean, I don't think Rolex would ever do anything like that. I mean, they aren't owned by anybody else anyway. So I don't think that would happen. And obviously, if they did do something like that, then yeah, I'm sure their lines would be like twice as long as that. But I think there's zero chance that, I think there's zero chance that would ever happen. Giza, have you ever flipped a watch for a profit? No, I haven't sold any of my watches for a profit at all.
I've sold 2 Rolexes, but a flip, when you say someone asks you if you flipped a watch, that means you bought it intentionally for a quick resale, in my opinion. So no,
Yes, yeah.
I bought them both because I was wearing them, but then I wanted to get out, so I sold 2.
Right, okay. Yeah, but how long did you have yours for? And did you buy them from the same authorized
No,
dealer?
actually, at that time, I went online. I found a jeweler who could obtain it. It was a White Explorer 2. That was my first one. And
Right,
I got
okay.
them, and actually the watch came up through Greece, believe it or not, because it was an AD in Greece that sold it up to him out of New York. And I don't know. I think I probably had it I'm not quite sure, but I sold private party.
Right,
And
okay.
it's funny because I had women calling, and then I had a perpetual Oyster Perpetual 39 matte white, and I'd get women calling, and they're telling me what the watch is worth. And I'm thinking,
Right.
who are these? What do they wanted to give me half. They wanted to give me below what I even paid for it. So I knew they were working for somebody.
Right.
But I just
Okay.
but I just hung in there, and then finally got a decent price. But you can't, if you need the money and you go to a great marketeer, he will eat you alive.
Right. Yes, I'm sure. Yes, I'm sure. Yes. Yeah, I'm definitely sure. I'm sure on that too. Oh, I'm gonna have to get. I just. Just, hit that button there.
I mean, it's okay. I
So,
mean, if we've been on
you
an
okay
hour
for a
20,
few more minutes, and then
yeah, we can go
we'll.
another minute.
If
Sure.
we go on a few more minutes, and then we'll.
Yeah.
Is there
You're
anything else
carrying
about?
you're carrying the show. I mean, doing a great job.
Okay. I think we've answered all of the questions. We've certainly been chatting on quite, I want to say. So, what's this, Diet Rose? What I wanted to say is that if people go crazy for a plastic moons watch that makes Rolex cheap at current prices, well, yeah, because I saw one moon watch on eBay for something like 60,000. Who the hell is going? Nobody's going to be paying those silly prices, for that type of thing, are they? So yeah. We just have to see. Hopefully, I mean, I would get one of those moon watches if they become available, because it'd be good to have one, on the channel, and just to give my thoughts and opinions on it. But I certainly am not buying one, over retail. So if I find one, that's available, generally, in a shop or online for the £207 that they are here, then yes, I probably would, I would get one at that. But at the moment, I think it's going to be quite a while, before that happens, before they become, available generally, for people. So, is there anything else about the show that we wanted to talk about, Lexter? Because, like I said, the only other thing is, so the Omega Swatch will be available. Yeah, when eventually, hopefully, when they're online, then we can get one online, because they've obviously got the huge, ridiculous queues, queuing up for them. But hopefully they'll be available online, and then I'll get one once they are. So I'll keep an eye out. I'll keep an eye out, for that. Was there anything else you wanted to ask about the
London Watch
watch
Show.
show?
No, I got a feel for it. I kind of thought that, but it was hard to go online because people were just, the YouTubers were involved and they were doing their, meet and greet and everything else. But I just wanted to get the average person walking through and getting the experience.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, if I hadn't have met my friend there, which, like I said, I met, and then we just wandered around separately, and then we just met up at the end, and then we went off and had, um and then we had a meal afterwards, kind of like, it's worth going if you're going to meet someone, have a half an hour or something walking around the show, and then, bugger off afterwards and have something to eat. I think it's okay for that. And I'm glad that I changed my day from the Saturday to the Sunday, because if I'd have gone Saturday, I wouldn't have known anybody, and I literally would have gone in, looked around, felt thoroughly depressed looking at all those watches at ridiculous prices that you can't get, and then I
Right.
just would have gone straight back to the hotel, or back home, and it would have been quite a miserable experience, to be honest. But at
Right.
least there was somebody there that I knew, and then that made the whole thing, you know, more palatable. And as one person did say in a comment, and obviously they weren't very happy with my opinion on things generally, and I did agree with one thing he did say. And he says, did I not notice the vintage watches and the other things like that? And I must admit, I didn't. For the thing is, like, because I hadn't really didn't know what I was expecting or anything else like that, I was kind of like so taken aback by this, ridiculous sales thing and everything else like that. you know I kind of just got caught up in the moment of that, And then I didn't even think about looking at anything else. And I should have done, it would have been good to have added something else to that video. Say, well, it wasn't just this, there were some vintage watches and other things like that. So I must admit, but that's me, I tend to sort of, well, whenever I do a video, I always forget something. You can kind of almost guarantee that I'm going to forget something or other. So yeah, so I probably should have noticed something like that. But like I said, I just got distracted by everything else there. And like I said, someone obviously recognized me and I chatted to them for 10 minutes or something, something like that. But it was definitely an experience anyway. So online within 4 to 6 weeks. I think the moon swatch is great for the hobby. It'll bring many, many young people whom finances keep out into the watch hobby for the future. Yeah, I think it's a good thing. I mean, it's something a bit different, isn't it? We don't all have to have, super expensive watches, and even now, obviously, I was collecting the Rolex, and then obviously I got the 50 Fathoms, but then I've kind of sort of got into the G-Shocks, as well. And obviously they're significantly cheaper watches, and they're just as fun and interesting and things like that. And plus they also kind of fit my outdoor thing, as well. Plus I had a watch which is on the channel, which was an 18-year-old ProTrack, and that was still working. I had to change the battery on it, and that ProTrack, funny enough, does every single thing that the modern watches do. It's got the ABC, it's got the solar power thing on it. It does everything that the modern watches do. They haven't really come forward, like technology on our phones and things like that, of like leaps and bounds from 18 years ago. But actually, watch technology from that point of view, it hasn't changed. It hasn't changed at all. So yeah, I mean that's it. I think I've been sort of waffling along for
Very thorough. It's very entertaining, very
quite a
informative.
lot there, and everyone's asked everything. I think we've answered every single thing. So I think I'm going to
I want to
finish.
thank you first. I want to thank you for having me on and then letting me join.
It's a pleasure. Well, thank you very much for asking to come on, and hopefully we can do something like this in the future.
Surely. Okay.
It's been interesting and and fun and enjoyable to do. And thank you to everybody who's joined us and commented and everything else like that. Yeah, it's been good fun. So I'll turn off the broadcast, and everybody else, like, subscribe, all that other stuff, and look out for other videos that I do in the future. As I've said, it's just me and what I can purchase or grab hold of with my friend in the future. Anyway, I will say goodbye to everybody, and I will see you all sometime in the near future. Thank you very much for all of your comments and everything else on that video I did. It's much appreciated. And thank you very much, Lexter, and I will talk to you obviously again in the near future. Thank you very much. And thank you, Richard, as well. Thank you very much. Thank you. Turning off now.